Start recording. Okay, hello guys. Good afternoon. Today we're going to start with electrostatics, and electrostatics deal with finding electric fields kapag yung mga charges mo stationary. Okay, so if we can remember from our elementary courses na kapag meron tayong charge, which is yung positive and negative charges natin, nagpa-produce sila ng electric field. And that from the positive charge, nagra-radiate outward yung electric field. And then yung negative charge will be absorbing rays of electric field. Okay? Okay, so yung dami ng electric field lines, depende na lang kung gaano ka kasipag, di ba? Ito masipag yung drawing na to. So madaming electric field lines. Okay? Basta consistent ka, okay? Kung isang charge, ganito karami. Pag minultiply mo yung charge ng dalawa, dapat double rin yung number ng lines. Okay, so wala lang, graphical importance lang. Alright, syempre, when charges interact, magkakaroon ka ng distortion on your field lines, electric field lines. And ang mangyayari is, kunyari may ganito ka, dipole. So two poles, positive and negative. So yung electric field lines mo will come from your positive charge and then end up in the negative charge. Okay, no? So amazing yung nag-graph nito. Okay? And then syempre kung gagawin natin, komplikado yung real life, yung buhay natin, yung real life itsura ng electric field lines will be ganito. Okay. So question, sir, do we see the real life makikita ba natin to in real life, yung mga lines na yun? No, we don't see the lines. We just use the lines as a mathematical reference. So kung titignan nyo yung ito, yung charge natin, you can imagine it as like something, a sun, yung araw natin, and it radiates yung mga light rays mo, yung mga electric field lines. So nakikita mo ba yung dami ng electric field, yung lines coming from the sun, yung rays coming from the sun? No, di ba? It just glows. So ganun din yung electric field kung imaginein mo. Para lang nag-glow tong positive charge mo. Tapos pwede mo rin isipin na black holes yung negative charge kasi it absorbs light. It absorbs the field lines. So pwede mo imagine na ganun. But in reality, what field lines is they're just mathematical objects. Okay? Sinabi ni Maxwell na parang ether daw siya or parang blanket around a charge. But then na-prove naman natin sa special relativity that this ether does not exist. So, ayan, mahirap imagining yung field lines natin, electric field lines. Okay? So again, they're just mathematical objects that help us solve our problems. Okay, so yung question natin sa electrostatics or the goal that we want to obtain is the force between these charges. After all, sa physics, kailangan mo ng force, kailangan mo ng mga different forces to understand how motions are or how objects move. Okay? So ganun lang naman ang physics, di ba? Paulit-ulit tayo na from classical mechanics. So you understand how your normal life-size objects interact and move. Sa quantum mechanics, titignan mo kung paano nagmo-move yung mga elementary particles mo. And then sa general relativity, you will be observing massive objects and how they move. So in the end, physics is just about motion. About motion lang siya. We're just characterizing motion. We're just trying to understand how things move. Okay? So if charges interact, what is the force between them? So sa discussion sa libro, makakaroon tayo ng mga source charges mo, Q, small q. And then yung mga source charges, ito yung mga charges na nasa problem mo. Okay? And then there is a need for a test charge, which is a large Q, para ma-feel mo kung anong nangyayari, kung anong nagagawa nitong mga source charge mo. Now, ano lang to, for formality lang. Kasi if you're gonna dip your finger sa gitna ng mga charges, you don't feel anything. But if you're a test charge, now you can feel anything. You can feel that something that's coming from the source charges. Okay? Okay. So ayan, if charges interact, what is the force between them? Now si Coulomb, so nag-experiment siya with those charges, and nag-assume ako ng gender niya, pero sige. Okay, anyway, si Coulomb, nalaman niya na yung force between objects is just this, between charges, I mean, is just this. So F is the force, then 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Epsilon naught mo will be the, I'm just gonna check kung tama yung naalala ko, but this is, wait now. But this is permittivity of free space. Okay. Kasi merong sa later on sa magnetism, may permeability naman na tinatawag. Okay, so nalilito lang ako. So itong epsilon naught, that is for vacuum. Okay, so between charges in a vacuum, ang mararamdaman ng test charge Q mo upon the presence of a source charge small q is this guy. Now, yung curly r na vector or quantity, itong curly r sa denominator, and this one, ito yung, yung separation vector na tinutukoy ko nung chapter 1. Okay, and the separation vector is just the separation between your charges and your test charge. Okay? Okay, so itong epsilon naught, be familiar with it. Hindi nyo kailangan memorize dahil usually nasa calculator niya, scientific calculator niya. Sa, hindi ko alam kung ano. Basta, ayun, hanapin niyo na lang. Constant 32 ata siya usually. Okay? I'm sorry. Okay, so, ayan. And then, nalaman ni Coulomb na upon addition of charges, ang nangyayari lang sa forces mo is they add up. As simple as that. Okay, so kunyari may collection ka ng small charges, small q na mga charges mo, magkakaroon ka ng superposition, which means that yung relationship na yung mga charges na ito, yung mga forces na nagagawa nila, is just the addition of them. Okay, so the force due to Q1 plus force due to Q2, Q3, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. So if you're gonna factor out the proportionality constants, 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, factor out mo din yung Q, large Q, kasi yung large Q mo is just your test charge, or kung saan mo feel yung force or electric field, then you'll have this quantity ito nasa loob ng parenthesis. And now, we describe these mathematical objects as your electric field E. Okay? Okay, so, wait a minute. Alalahanin natin sa classical mechanics that we can write this as something like the motion is always something like this. Tama? Okay? Okay? And, sulat natin to. Amazingly, they are very similar looking. Okay? So when there is an acceleration field or acceleration somewhere, your mass has to move. Okay? So your mass is affected by a force that is proportional to the acceleration. Similarly, your charge feels a force depending on the electric field E. So, okay? So, proportional na. So, makikita nyo may analogy. Okay? So, pwede nyo isipin na ganun, no? When the sense of an electric field is just for the charges to move, or for the charges to feel the force. Okay? Okay. So ayan, sinulat lang natin dito na we can define the electric field as something like this. Okay? So yung R vector mo, R vector will be from origin to the point of interest. Okay? So kung saan mo pinifeel yung or tinetest yung electric field mo. So nakatutok doon yung R. Okay? And then yung sulat lang din natin, R vector or yan, R vector. Oops. Sorry. R vector will be from charge to test charge. Okay? So from the source charge to the test charge, yung separation vector. Siyempre nakakalito pag hindi natin ginagawa in practice kung paano ba nagwo-work itong mga to. Okay, let's try an example. Dahil na for example na lang gagawin natin for the next. Uy, may problem set. Ayan. Okay, ayan. Sige, example tayo. Find the electric field A from joke. Find the electric field at distance Z above the midpoint between two equal charges Q at the distance B apart. Okay. Wait lang. Sige. Sige, magtanong tayo. Si Kazumi. Nandiyan ka ba, Kazumi?
Nandito po.
Okay. Sa tingin mo, saan mo po-point yung electric field after natin ma-solve itong problem natin?
Wait lang, sir. Binabasa ko pa yung questions. Sa taas po ba?
Okay. Paano yung anong direction ng taas? Ayun, ito may variables tayo. Gamitin natin yung variables.
Like nakatutok po sa north.
Nakatutok sa north dito.
Opo.
Okay. So, yes, tama siya. Okay. Thank you, Kazumi. Pero you have to be more specific, no? Kasi gagamitin natin yung coordinate system na present sa atin. Okay? So, tinatry niya i-point out na pa-north yung electric field after we have solved this, no? And yung north natin in this setup will be positive Z hat. Okay? And, ayun, kung makapansin kasi natin, these are the same charges Q and Q. Okay? And then, kung dito, nakita niyo yung drawing, ito yung electric field, yung first charge, si E1, and then si E2 will be coming from this charge. Okay? And kung mapansin nyo, magka-cancel lang naman yung horizontal components nila. And we're left with a vertical component. Okay? So wala lang, isipin lang natin yun. Let's keep that in the back of our mind para ma-check natin kung may sense yung solution natin. Okay? Okay, so let's do this. Kailangan natin makuha yung mga vectors natin para ma-solve itong problem na ito. Okay, so we have to know what's R, yung curly R mo, and then yung R vector. Okay? So yung R vector, as I've said, will be coming from the origin to the point of interest. Okay? So yung origin mo pwede magbago-bago, no? Pero dito kasi madali na i-drawing yung coordinate system mo somewhere such that magiging symmetric yung problem mo. Okay? So with that, nakita natin yung symmetry agad na dapat yung final na electric field natin will be just going up. So we can say that the origin can be easily written here. So origin, oops, white din pala siya. Ano ba yan, sir? Okay, so green na yun. So sulat natin yung origin dyan. So di ba, maganda siya kasi may symmetry ka from your points of interest. Okay, so let's write down that yung R vector mo is just Z hat. Kuha. Diba? Kasi ito yung R. Okay, ito yung R. Then, yung separation vector mo will be kung ano yung sinulat natin dati. Okay, that will be R minus R prime. Okay, what is R prime? Hindi natin alam yung R prime. Sulat tayo ng R prime na itong X hat. Okay? So, sulat lang natin na yung R prime natin is X hat. Simple as that. Okay, kuha ba yun? Napaka-straightforward ka naman. Sulat natin to para hindi tayo mahirapan. So we have E. The vector E will be 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. And then the sum of the charges or yung things mo. Okay? So sulat lang natin. Sulat lang muna natin. I 1, 2. Okay. Q1, QI. Okay. R squared. Kinokopya ko lang yung ano, yung yes sir, malinaw yung sinulat mo. Kinokopya ko lang yung equation natin for the electric field. Okay. R yan guys. Bakit lang ako magsulat? Okay. Okay. Let's evaluate tong separation vector natin. Okay. Since we know R to be Z hat minus X hat. Okay guys, anong tinitignan ko ngayon? So tinitignan ko ngayon, kung anong basis ko dito is yung nasa right natin na charge. Okay? Kasi ito yung positive X direction, di ba? So in-assume ko muna na siya muna yun. Si R prime muna natin. Dun siya sa, nakatutok siya dito sa right hand side. Then I'll just flip the sign later on para malaman natin kung ano yung contribution ni charge sa left side. Okay. Okay guys, so what is R squared? Itong curly R squared mo. Okay, so tingnan natin. There are actually a lot of ways to find yung R squared mo. R squared. R yan guys, pangit ko na ako magsulat. R squared is just R. Joke. Yung curly R dotted with R. Yan, maganda na yung R ko. Okay, so pwede mo isipin na ganun. Or you can just do your normal Pythagorean theorem. Di ba? This is just D over 2. This is just Z. Okay? Similarly, I can write that this is just Z squared plus D over 2 squared. Tama ba? d over 2 squared, ito yung lang, di ba? Side squared plus side squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. Okay? Very clear. Malinaw pa naman tayo. Lagyan na natin boundaries. Okay. Will I get the same thing if I dot product it with itself? Let's try. Green pala yung solution ko. So green tayo. Okay, so the dot mo yung sarili niya, sa sarili niya. So magpa-partner-partner lang yung mga vectors mo, z hat and x hat. So yung z hat, magpa-partner lang siya with z hat. So z squared, tama? So z hat dotted with z hat plus negative x hat dotted with negative elements. Yes, busog ulit siya. Napakahusay. Yes. Sorry guys. Okay, sorry, balik tayo. Negative x hat. Okay, so madali lang to gawin, di ba? Kung mapansin nyo, ito ay z squared lang. Oops, vector na dahil nag-dot product na tayo. Then, magka-cancel yung negative. So, I'm left with positive. Tapos, x squared. Okay? And this is it. Sir, ba't magkaiba? Tingnan natin ngayon yung value ng x. Yung value ng x at the point that they charge, at the position of the charge is d over 2. And if I plug in that, I'll get the same. Diba? Amazing. Okay? So that is your r squared. Now, what's the r vector? Okay, so solve muna natin sa E2. Dahil may directions na tayo ngayon. E2 muna. Okay, so si E2, lagay na natin para hindi tayo mahirapan. 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. And I'll have my Q, the charge. And then the r squared is just this. Z squared plus d over 2 squared. And that. Tama, di ba? Kasi r squared na siya. And then I'm left with, kailangan ko isulat pa yung direction natin, yung direction of separation vector, which is just this. And how did we define the direction? The direction is just the vector divided by its magnitude, r. Okay? And that gives me yung direction ko will be, dahil nasa, oh my God, a horrible mistake. Oops. Ay, lumipat. Just erase it. Sige, ayaw niya lumipat. Gusto niya ito. Okay, ayaw niya pabura, guys. Wala, ayaw niya pabura. Okay, so I'm having a technical difficulty. So, dito dapat yan. Okay? Ayaw niya magpabura. Nakakainis. Small erase. Medium erase. Ayun. Yan. That's so good. Okay. Going back. Ayaw niya naman lumipat sa pen niya. Wait lang, guys. Restart ko itong ano natin. Stop share. Wait lang. Restart ko yung ano ko, application para mag-render ulit. Puzzle naman, Norn. Okay, now it works. Okay, I'm gonna share again. Sorry for that. Technical difficulties. Okay, thumbs up kung nakikita na. Now we're back. We're back online. Okay, thank you for some more thumbs up. And we just have to evaluate this. Okay. Okay, so what is our curly R vector? That will be z hat minus z adjo x. So lagay natin si x, no? Parang tayo mahirapan. D over 2 x hat. Okay? Okay, and then we'll divide it by, yung r natin will be, kasi yung r squared natin, alam natin. So magkakaroon dapat tayo ng square root. Square root ng z squared. Pythagorean lang naman to. Then d over 2 squared. Okay, hassle, di ba? Ang haba. Now we're ready to write this one, this guy. I'm so sorry. Sir, may square sa labas ng parenthesis. Doon po sa denominator. Ito ba yung tinutukoy mo? Chat ka. Wala tong square kasi this is r squared agad. Okay? Kuha. R squared yung kailangan natin, yung curly r squared. And we know that by Pythagorean theorem, ito siya. I just plug in directly. Okay, okay. So, yan. Medyo nakakalito talaga itong ganitong. Pero, wala lang. I enjoy this, no? I enjoy doing this. Kasi this is a normal person integral. Okay? So, nung nag-masters ako, weird person integral yung hinahandle ko. So, ang ibig ko sabihin nun, puro contour integral. Kung naalala nyo, Physics 112. Puro ganun yung sinasolve ko, which is nakakapagod. May mga imaginary numbers and etc. Okay, so we plug in itong thing natin to dito. Okay, so we have here na ito ay magiging. Okay, so inisog ko lang dito na para malinis na tayo. 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q. I move my things a bit. Okay, q. And then z squared plus d over 2 squared. Then I'll plug in this whole thing, scary. Z hat, ang haba, no? Isipin mo, simpleng problem, magiging ganito. And oops, pangit. Square root z squared plus d over 2 square. I close my square root. So this is it for your E2. Simplify pa natin pala. Okay, what can be simplified? Pansinin nyo yung denominator. Mapapagsama natin to. Tama? Hardcore. And then I'm left with 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Minsan nabubisit ako in life, sinusulat ko in every problem that k is equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Dahil nakakapagod siya. K. Okay, so K, Q. And then, yung denominator mo will be z squared plus d over 2 squared. 3 halves. Nagets kung bakit 3 halves? Kasi this is 1 half. Yung power nito is 1 half. Tama? 1 half. And yung power nito is 1. And yung 1, pwede mo isulat something as 2 over 2. And then you can simply combine them. So 2 over 2 plus 1 half. That is 3 halves. Amazing. Then we'll write down the direction. Z hat minus D over 2 X hat. Okay? Okay, we're not done, di ba? Because again, this is just E sub 2. Okay? Okay? E sub 2 lang yun. Itong charge lang na to. Now, if we're gonna, pwede natin pagurin sarili natin and solve from the start kung paano makuha si E1. But we can simply say something to obtain E1. And E1 has to be, okay, tatanong tayo. So, ano sa tingin mo ba kailangan kong baguhin from here para makuha ko si E1? So, si Amina, what do you think na kailangan kong baguhin?
Yung sign po ba, sir?
Okay, aling sign? Maraming signs dito.
Yung D over 2 po.
Okay, very good. So, pag inulit natin yung problem natin, mapapansin natin na yung D over 2, yung kabila naman yung i-consider natin. Okay? And yung direction nun will be negative X hat. So, yung mga R prime mo magiging negative XX hat. And then, from here, magiging positive siya. And so on and so forth. Diba? Ayun lang yung mga magbabago. Since yung R squared mo is a squared quantity, so this is always positive. Unless magic happens na maging imaginary number siya. Pero hindi naman ganun. Dahil nga ito ay normal person integral. Okay? Okay. So, yung 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, hindi rin magbabago kasi that is a constant. Diba? Yung Q mo, if it changes, it has to stay in Q, inside Q. Kung maging positive man yan or negative, nasa loob siya ng Q. Okay? Itong curly R prime mo, R hat, will depend on that, will depend on this X hat. So in the long run, ang kailangan mo lang talagang palitan is this guy. So thank you, Amina, for your answer. So E1 is just, sulat natin, Q over Z hat plus D over 2 X hat. And then we have this very complicated denominator, D over 2. Oops, D over 2, 3 halves. Okay. Now, by the principle of superposition, I'll just have to add things up. Kuha. I will add things up. And that is very simple. If we add this, you can see that this is the same, KQ is the same, KQ is the same, the denominator is the same, Z hat is the same. Only thing is different is yung D over 2. And pag nag-add tayo ng vectors, vector yan, vector to, vector yan, pero hindi ko nasulat. Okay, pag nag-add tayo ng vectors, we add them by components. So, X hat part cancels out, and we're left with Z. So the final answer will be E. The vector E will be just E1 plus E2. Okay, and that gives me, siyempre hindi ko kabisado, 2KQ, 2KQ Z hat, 2KQ Z hat. And the denominator, I just copy them. Tama? Okay. KQ Z hat Then, dahil dalawa sila, may 2. Oops, nawawala yung z. Take 2 kz. Okay. Then the denominator will be z squared plus d squared over 4, 3/2. Okay. And that is your E. Sulat nyo pa rin yung E. And then Z. Okay? Okay, para malaman mo kung anong variable yung pwede mong galawin. Okay, I'm just gonna check things out if that is the correct answer. And that is the correct answer, guys. Okay. Okay. Okay, tama. Tama yung ginawa natin. Kine-check ko kasi ba ano to. Hindi ako gumawa ng notes dahil tamad ako. Okay. By heart lang natin to ginagawa. Okay, so ayan yung final answer, no? For that part. And tama ba yung sinabi natin na z-hat lang yung direction? Yes, tama lang. Okay? So tama tayo na pataas lang yung direction mo kasi napansin natin na we did it the hard way, na-cancel yung mga x components mo. Amazing, di ba? So now, syempre, ang problema natin in real life is not point charges kasi hindi naman natin talaga na-isolate yung... Okay, wait. Sir, clarification lang po. If the electric po only exists in the z-hat direction, ganon din po ba yung electric field lines niya? Okay. No other lines po in another direction. This is a very nice question. No? Okay. Paano natin iniisip yung electric field? So yung electric field, drawing natin. If we have a gawin natin puti yun siya. And then blue. Red na lang pala for positive. Para engineering. So we know that for a charge, it goes like this. Hindi ako masipag, so wala lang the drawing ko. Okay, from your physics, elementary physics subjects, we know that opposite charges attract and then similar charges repel. Okay. And okay, patayin ko lang muna yung camera ko, guys. And then where was I? Okay, so kung naalala niyo yung topic about electric field lines in your earlier physics subject, di ba yung pag parehas yung charge, ang nangyayari is they don't intersect. Yung charges mo don't intersect, di ba? And when that happens, anong nangyayari sa electric field lines mo? Okay. So we'll try to draw the electric field lines here. So yung electric field lines mo on the right-hand side and here on the left-hand side, wala masyadong mangyayari. So it goes just like this. Okay. That's very simple. And from here, goes like this, goes like this, goes like this. Okay. And then we have to consider that when we draw electric field lines, hindi dapat sila mag-intersect. So we can still draw the downward part here, downward part here, downward part here, upward part here. Now the problem lies here. Okay? So at this direction, pag tinuloy ko yung normal drawing natin here, normal drawing natin for a single charge, pag tinuloy mo pag ganun yung electric field line mo, pag ganun yung electric field line mo, ang mangyayari is that they will intersect and that is not possible. So we have to let the field lines go away from each other, and we have to do it like something like that, like that, like that, like that, like that, and like that. And you've seen this somewhere in the internet. Diba? So, electric field line dito pataas. Electric field line dito pababa. Nakita nyo to somewhere in the internet. When two like charges are placed together, ang makikita nyo, electric field distribution is something like this. So, ayun, no? Very nice yung question ng isang classmate nyo. Okay. So, pag nagsosolve kayo ng electric fields, maganda rin na isipin nyo yung itsura, yung electric field lengths nyo, kung nai-imagine nyo. Okay. Kung hindi nyo naman na-imagine, you can just go by mechanically solving it in our right-hand side. Okay? Okay? So, ganyan. Pero intuitively, if you can imagine it, go for this. Dahil makikita mo that at this point, pataas lang yung lahat ng electric field lines mo. Okay? Okay. Siyempre, okay, we continue for topic. In real life, hindi naman point charges lang yung makikita mo. Usually, they are lines or currents, wires, ganun, na merong linear charges. And then, meron tayong mga surface na may charges din. And then, of course, large quantities of charges make up a volume like this. So, we can write the electric field down as an integral. Okay? And then, ito yung mga equations mo for the electric fields. Okay, kilatasin natin yung mga laman ng equations natin. Okay, so what is lambda, what is sigma, and what is rho? Lambda is a line charge density. And when we say density, anong pumapasok sa isip mo? Intuitively, ang density na alam natin is density is just yung usual natin, which is mass over volume. Okay? Okay, but this is called mass density. Okay. And when we say something that is density in general, we have something that is a quantity that is over some space. So, yan yung general form ng density mo. Okay? Okay. So, again, this is normal person thing. So, we have space. Okay? In higher order physics na thing, kung ano-ano yung pinagagamit sa density. Ang point is, in density it is something, a quantity that is distributed over something. So, a quantity that is distributed over a space, in our case. Okay? So, tandaan nyo lagi yan, quantity over space. So, in our case, the line charge density, you can imagine this as charges. Oops. Di marunong mag-spell si sir. Charges per linear quantity, or that is dots per or unit of line. Okay? And then sigma. Ang dami natin mga variable. Parang COVID lang. Daming Greek letter. Sigma is the surface charge density. Surface charge density. And if we can imagine that, we have charges per area. Tama? And then lastly, rho. Here, rho. Rho will be volume, charge, density. Hindi nyo na lang sulat ko, guys. Sorry. And that is, sorry. Wala pala dapat yun. That is just charges over your volume. Very straightforward. Okay? So when we want to know the total charge, we want that yung density mo, charge, suratan sa baba para mas ma. Total charge will be charge density times all space. All space occupied. Okay. Lagyan lang natin ng occupied para malinaw sa atin. Okay. So why is this? So pag sinulat natin yung total charge for sigma, pag sigma times area, magiging, di ba yung ito ay charges per area. And if we multiply that by area, the total area that is occupied by your charge, hindi magka-cancel yung area. Makukuha mo yung total charge. Total. Make sense, di ba? Kaya yung mga integral mo, ganun. Okay? So you integrate yung line charge mo all over the line, dl. You integrate your sigma, your surface charge density, all over the area para mabuo mo yung charge mo. And lastly, yung rho, integrate mo siya all over your space, d tau, all over the volume, para makuha mo yung total charge. Okay, sir, ano yung parenthesis R prime na yan? Okay. Now, minsan kasi sa problem, yung line charge density mo, yung mga charge densities mo, they vary over space. Okay? So, they are written here as a functions. Okay? So, they are written here as functions of R prime kung nasaan yung mga charges mo. Okay? Yung R, yung mga prime coordinates natin is yung, again, yung mga kung nasaan yung position ng mga charges mo. Okay? Okay. So, ayun, no? Sometimes, they're not constant and they vary with position. Luckily, some of our problems na solve ngayon is constant lang yung densities mo. And that is easy. Mag-rho na lang yan. Magiging sigma na lang. Yung lambda na lang. And what's difficult here is imagining your problem. Okay? Kung ano yung mga dA mo, kung ano yung mga itong mga R mo, yung mga curly R mo. Okay? Okay. So, syempre, mag-example tayo para maliwanagan tayo kung paano ba ginagamit itong mga to. Okay, okay. Okay, so for continuous charge distributions, we have an example here. Find the electric field at distance z above the midpoint of a straight line segment of length 2L that carries a uniform line charge lambda. Okay, uniform line charge lambda. That means yung lambda mo is just constant. You can take it out of your integration. Okay? Okay, si Jello. Nandiyan ka ba?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, nandito si Jello. So, at the end of our solution, what do you think or where do you think that the electric field would point? Saan nakatutok yung electric field ng total natin?
Wait lang po.
Ano, sorry?
Ay, wait lang po.
Okay.
Medyo binabasa. Ano nga po ulit yung tanong, sir?
Ang tanong ko is kung pagkatapos natin i-solve yung problem natin, saan nakatutok yung electric field at this point P? Okay?
Hello, yung arrow po sa
Ay, hindi. Yung
left,
arrow
yung
ay for solution purposes. So, baka malito ka. Okay, ito yung line charge mo.
Ay,
Ito yung line
sa
charge
Z
mo.
po. Ay, sorry.
Z, naka-Z ba sagot mo?
Opo.
Okay,
Positive Z po.
Okay, tama siya. Kasi parang kanina lang to. Parang kanina lang to. So, thank you, Jello. Parang kanina lang yung problem. So, may symmetry ka na naman. And kapag pinansin mo yung symmetry yun, mapansin mo na yung electric field mo would just point in the Z direction at this point P. Okay. So, ano lang, check natin, no, para mamaya. Tingnan natin kung tama nga yung pinaggagawa natin in our lines. Okay. So, again, we're gonna write things out para maintindihan natin kung paano gumagana itong problem natin. Okay? Okay. So, wait lang. Okay, so let's start by writing down the things that we need in our problem. Okay, so ang kailangan natin is kung ano yung mga curly R mo. Okay? Okay, so yung curly R's natin will be, okay, so ito ay sulat natin as Z. Ay, okay, kita naman pala na may Z. Okay, so may Z na. Ito ay X. Okay, clear naman sa lahat yun na ay yung coordinate system natin. Okay, let's write down R, curly R, vector mo. And that would be, again, this is Z hat minus X hat. Pansin yun? Okay? Kasi ito ay X, ito ay Z, and then if you're gonna get the vector here, that would be X plus your curly R must be equal to Z. So ito yun. Nilipat-lipat ko lang. Okay. Klaro? Hindi naguguluhan. Okay. And then, yung R squared, madali itong alamin. Dahil Pythagorean theorem lang ulit. And that would be Z squared plus X squared. Now, yung X natin ngayon, nagbabago na. Okay? Kasi kanina, yung point charges mo, nakaposition lang sila sa D/2, ganun. Ngayon, X changes kasi bubuuin natin yung line charge mo. Okay? And then we have to know DL prime. So DL prime would be the line containing your charge. And the line that is containing your charge will be simply as X hat, ay X, di ba? Kasi nasa X yung line mo. So DX to. Klaro? Intindihan? Okay. What is lambda? Lambda is uniform. So that is lambda lang talaga siya. And then we have to build this now. We can build this now. Okay. E will be, the vector E will be 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Nabubisit na naman tayo. Sir, pwede pa ulit sa curly R. Hindi ko po nakuha. Okay, sige. Ulitin natin. Okay. So, ang ginagawa ko sa curly R, kasi di ba ang curly R natin is, the R vector minus the r prime vector. Again, yung r will be something that's pointing out to your point of interest. Kung nasaan si P, ayun yung tinignan natin. Then r prime will point to your charge distribution, which is along the x-hat axis. Okay, so we can write things out. Okay, here we have yung, this is your x-hat direction. This is your r-hat direction. This is your z-hat. So in essence, meron tayong triangle na ganito. Okay? Okay? So tanggalin ko muna yung, tingnan muna natin yung itong part na ito. Dahil vectors ito, r, and this is r prime, I know that if I attach the tail of r prime to r, curly r, if I attach the tail of r prime, then I will be adding then r prime vector plus r curly r into something. So if I attach this, so ayan yung mabubuo ko. And what is that? What is this? What is this? What is this vector? And this vector is just, if you're going to look at here, z lang siya. Okay. Okay. Dapat pala mga hat to. Sorry. Dahil mga direction lang tinutukoy ko. Okay. Okay. So if we're gonna arrange that, yung, wait lang. Sulat natin mas maayos. Sulat ko lang mas maayos. Okay na pala. Sige, sulat na lang natin. Tama pala. Sorry. This is just a hat. And if we're gonna rearrange this, we have obtained this. So if we're gonna rearrange that, we obtain the curly r must be equal to z. Oops. Ano ba yan, sir? Nakakalito magsulat lagi. Minus, lipat ko lang to r prime. As simple as that. Okay. And then if I'm gonna plug in what's z, the vector z, that will be z hat, and the vector r prime will be x hat. Okay, so if I'm gonna write this down, this is just this, and this will be just this. Okay? Klaro na ba? Naintindihan? Chat naman kung okay na. Okay. Gets na. So upon sa simula itong ginagawa natin, nakakalito talaga siya. Okay? So hindi mo to usually makukuha on your first round of hearing it. Ang gagawin nyo is lalaspagin nyo yung kamay nyo, kakasolve ng mga ganitong bagay para fully nyo magets. Okay? So I've been doing this for 8 years now. Kaya gets ko na siya. Pero kayo okay lang yun kung hindi nyo masyadong nakukuha, huwag kayo madadown sa sarili nyo. Okay, mahirap talaga yung topic. Okay, let's continue. What am I gonna do? Okay, I'm just gonna write down your vector E has to be 1/4 pi epsilon naught. I don't like doing this. Let K. 1/4 pi epsilon naught. Taman tayo. Okay, K. Then the integral of lambda over r squared, curly r squared, r hat, curly r hat dl prime. Tama ba yung kopya ko? Tingnan natin. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so si lambda, as is lang siya dahil again, uniform line charge siya. And then we're just gonna plug things in. Okay, so si r, curly r squared, will be z squared plus x squared. Si dl prime ko will be dx So, K lambda, yung R hat ko will be what's happening? Okay, Z squared plus X squared. And then, yung R prime ko can be written as yung R vector mo divided by its magnitude. Tama? Since di pa natin alam yung direction ng curly R. Okay? And this is, what is this? DL is dx. Okay. Hassle. Now we're gonna evaluate yung curly R things natin. Okay. So ito ay, again, this is just R. Curly R squared. And this, naalala nyo ba na ito ay magiging Z squared plus X squared 3/2. Tama? And then, yung numerator mo will be Z hat minus X hat. Tama? Tama? Tama. Okay, hardcore. Okay, so let's continue. Wala sir, ang hassle naman ito. Bakit ganyan yung mga problem natin in life? So wala tayong choice. No? So ang gagawin mo ngayon, dahil may 2 terms ka, mag-integrate ka term by term. Okay, klaro. So ano sir, ano yung integration bonds natin? Integration bonds mo will be negative L. Dahil 2L siya, nasa gitna tayo ng rod or yung line mo, which is length 2L. So nasa gitna tayo, ibig sabihin, this is negative L and this is positive L. Kuha. Okay. Okay. So this is negative L and to positive L. Okay. Now we're ready to solve things. So let's do this. Okay, lambda. Then I'll integrate. Lagyan natin yung parentheses para hindi tayo malito. Negative L to L, Z hat. Z hat. 1 over Z squared plus X squared 3/2. And lastly, we'll have negative integral ng L, negative L to L ng X hat. Oops, sorry, ano ginagawa ko? Pangit naman. Dx, and then the denominator, Z squared plus X squared 3/2. And then we'll close the thing. Okay, now we have 2 hardcore integrals. We're then just gonna check dahil hindi ko abisado itong mga integral natin. Okay. Hardcore. Solve muna natin itong integral over X hat. Okay, so in x hat. Okay? Ang integral natin will be this guy. Negative L to L, x prime. And then z squared. Just gonna write this down. Yes, kaya ko to. Z squared plus x squared, 3 halves dx. Now we can use a substitution. Let u be z squared plus x squared. Du will be mawawala yung z squared dahil mag-differentiate ako along x. Differentiate ako x. And then that gives me 2x dx. Now I'm just gonna let things go in. From the denominator, I have u, 3 halves. And then this is x hat. Labas ko na x hat, no? Para hindi ako maguluhan. Tapos yung x dx mo will be just this. So that's just du over 2. Du over 2. Tama. Divide ko to by 2. So d over 2 is just x dx. And that x dx is just this. And if we're gonna evaluate this, we have magiging ano to, di ba? Para hindi tayo mahirapan sa buhay natin. Gawin mo to. U raised to negative 3 over 2 du. And this is just fairly straightforward na integral. Magpa-plus 1 ka sa taas. So that is x hat over 2 ng u plus 1 yung plus 1 yung power natin, so just negative 1 half. Tama? All over negative 1 half. And that will be evaluated from negative L to L. Siyempre, babalik ka muna sa original variable mo para ma-solve to, di ba? So we have x hat over 2 tapos actually cancel na natin 2 tsaka 1 half, di ba? So dali. And I'm left with negative x hat. Tapos yung u mo will be 1 over, dahil nasa denominator to dapat kasi negative yung power niya. So square root ng u will be z squared and then plus x squared. Evaluate natin to with respect to L and L. Ayan, pwede natin evaluate yung x sa L to L. Okay? Okay, and this is very simple kasi pag ginawa mo yun, mapapansin mo that this is just 1 over square root ng z squared plus L squared, tama, minus evaluate mo naman with respect to ito in-evaluate natin sa L, tapos yung susunod na term will be evaluated to negative L. So ito ay negative L squared. What is that? Plus L squared then. And as we can see, this just zeroes out. Okay, so tama yung sinagot ni Jello na everything will be on the z hat direction. Okay? So na-cancel na yung x hat direction natin. And what's left is actually solving sinolve natin yung x hat. So solve natin yung itong first term natin. So, may nakakaalam pa ba kung paano mag-solve nitong first term natin? Napakahirap, no? Okay. So, paano ba ito i-solve? So, lagyan natin yung harang. In Z hat, what do we have? Okay, so sulat lang natin yung problem natin para hindi tayo mahirapan. Sana sumasabay kayo sa pag-solve no, para may hands-on talaga. Z hat. And then the integral from Z squared plus X squared. 3 halves. Tapos, ito ay dx. Oops, sorry. What's that? Dx. And there's a problem here kasi hindi mo na siya ngayon masulat as something as simple as this. Kasi dito naka-use substitution lang tayo. Ngayon, magkakaroon tayo ng trigonometric substitution. Naalala niyo pa ba kung paano mag-trigonometric substitution? So, sino nakakaalala pa? Okay, so maglalet tayo. Naghang pa. Okay, ayan. Wait lang, double check pa lang solutions ko, guys. Anong oras na ba? 5:30. Kaya ba natin to in 30 minutes? Iniisip ko, guys, kung gagawin natin in class. Pero parang ang hirap niya. Okay. Wait lang. Double check ko yung kung gaano nga natin katagal gagawin to. Dahil tagal. Sige, mag-solve tayo. Wala na tayong gagawin in life. Okay, go back. Yeah. Chinek ko lang kung gaano kagawin yung solution. So let's try some substitution. Hindi ko na masyadong naaalala to, but let's do a substitution. So let x be equal to a secant theta. Okay. No. Let this be z secant theta. Secant theta. And then dx will be z. Ano yung derivative ng secant theta? Naalala niyo pa ba? So, may nakaalala ba? Magtatanong ako. Secant. Hindi po batan. Okay. Okay, galing. May nagsasagot. Oh my God. Kabisado nyo. Hindi po batan yung substitution. Okay. Actually, hindi ko alam. Nangangapa lang ako dito na kasi by heart ko siya ginagawa. So, may nagsabi na yung derivative ng secant will be secant tangent. Secant theta tangent theta d theta. Okay, I trust that ito yung ito yung derivative ng secant. Okay? Okay, so let's try this. Kung hindi gumana, then it's not gonna work. Hindi natuto tayo. There's no harm in trying things out. So ayan, no? Kapag nagpanic ka about this problems. Mahirapan ka. So, let's try. Okay, so we have yung denominator natin, sulat natin as z squared. And then yung x squared mo will be plus z squared plus secant squared theta d theta. And then joke, yung numerator mo will be z. And then yung dx mo will be maging z squared. No. Ang dx mo, okay, maging z squared. Z squared secant theta tangent theta d theta. Okay. So, ayun, no, don't be limited na pag tingin nyo it will work. Just try it out. Tulad natin. Oops, nakalimutan si sir. So, 3/2 na power. Okay. Okay. So, I'm left with, if I'm gonna factor out z squared, so that will be, magiging z cube siya. And I'm left with, oops, may nawawala na naman. That is yung z hat power. Z hat na factor. Okay. Complete na. So, ayan, usual na mali ko yan lagi in solving electromagnetic problems nung undergrad ako is nakakalimutan ko yung mga pinaglalagay ko. Okay, so pag pinactor out natin z squared dito, magkakaroon tayo na z cube. And if I cancel out with this z squared, magiging z na lang. Okay. And L to L. Hindi ko pa pinapalitan yung bounds natin kasi babalik din ako from theta to tawag dito, to your x and z. Okay. Sorry. And then yung denominator mo, secant theta, tangent theta, d theta. Sir, ano po nangyari sa z hat? Ito siya. Walang nangyari sa z hat. It's just there. I'm just factoring things. Ito, yung nandito, ang nangyari dito is may z squared kasi tayo sa numerator. And if we factor out the z squared here, tatablan siya ng 3/2. So magiging cube yung power niya. So z squared over z cube will be 1 over z. And the denominator will be ito ay magiging 1 plus secant squared. Tama? And this is just tangent squared. This is just z hat z negative L, and we're left with secant theta, tangent theta, d theta, and yung denominator mo will be tangent squared. Tama? Tangent squared, tapos 3/2, so we have tangent cube. Solve things out. I'm left with secant, tapos theta over tangent squared. Tama ba yung nagagawa natin? Okay, mahirapan ata tayo. Okay, let's check derivative of tangent theta. Okay. So hello po sir, check ko po kasi isang check nyo, nakalimutan ko rin po yung trig sub. Parang tama po na z. Okay. So ayan, no? Titingnan natin kung if we're gonna do yung kabila, which is yung let x be. So, yan. No? Tangent theta. Ang galing, di ba? So, if all else fails, mag-ano kayo? Mag-trig sub talaga kayo. Kaya natin ito derivative ng tangent theta is secant squared theta. Tama ba? Natin sa internet. Secant squared niya. Okay, mukhang mas madali nga to. So, if we're gonna do this, kuhainin lang natin to, negative L, negative L. Yung bottom denominator mo will be z squared plus z squared tangent squared theta. And then, numerator mo will become z squared. Tama, z squared kasi may z pa kanina. Z squared then secant squared theta d theta. Okay. Okay. So, cosine squared. Wait lang cosine squared plus sine squared theta is just 1. Tama. And if we're gonna divide things out with cosine theta, cosine squared theta, cosine squared theta. Hindi ko absado yung mga bagay-bagay. I'm just deriving things out. This is 1 plus tangent squared theta is the secant squared theta. Okay, so what I've been doing wrong is this guy. So, inassume ko, ito. So, mali tayo dito. Ako lang pala. Dinamay ko pa kayo. Okay. So, ayan, no? Mali itong ginawa dito. So, this is wrong. This is wrong. Okay? So, thank you sa mga nagchat-chat, no? Kasi it's very helpful. I'm just doing this by heart. So, this is 3 halves. And if we're gonna continue, so z hat, negative L, z squared, magiging z cubed. Again, I have this. Then secant squared, d theta. And this is just 1 plus tangent squared. Tama, 1 plus tangent squared. And that is just secant squared theta. And this is just secant squared theta. But this is 3 halves. And this leaves me with okay. Z hat. Negative L. So, cancel mo yung squared. May iwan ako ng cube sa baba. So, secant squared over secant cube, that is 1 over secant or cosine theta. Ang galing. Oops, what happened? Okay. Cosine theta d theta. D theta. And this is just, what is the integral of cosine? They had z sine theta. And of course, negative L to L. But we don't know what sine theta is. So we have to go back to our substitution, which is x is equal to z tangent theta. Okay. Recall. So x is equal to z tangent theta. And then, so katoa, tangent is just equal to opposite over adjacent. Okay? So if we're gonna rewrite this thing, this tangent theta is just x over z. Okay, and if we're gonna draw the triangle for that, we have the theta here, theta, and then the opposite is x, and the adjacent is z. So we have, if we have sine theta, and from sine is just opposite over hypotenuse, then this becomes, sine theta becomes yung opposite mo, which is x, and then yung hypotenuse mo will be, of course, the x squared plus the x squared. Okay? Kuha ba yan? Kuha ba yan? Okay, no? So, ayan. We're just gonna plug it here. Z hat, Z, and then evaluate x hat plus z squared, negative L, and if we're gonna continue that, asang lubalop na ba tayo? Ay, malayo na pala tayong lubalop. Okay, tuloy lang natin. Unlimited blackboard. Okay, this is gonna be lengthy. So Z, let's write things out. L over L squared plus Z squared. Tama? Minus L, so plus L. Tama? Diba? Kasi ito ay negative L tapos minus for the integral. L squared plus Z squared. Again, kasi ito ay squared quantity, so that's positive. Kahit negative siya, magiging positive na lang. And we are left with, finally, Z hat over Z. Tapos, 2L. 2L over the quantity L squared plus Z squared. Amazing. Oops. Ha. May nawawala, no? May nawawala. So that is just our integral for this. So multiplyan mo pa siya ng k lambda to obtain the electric field. And that gives me, ito kasi yung second term natin, 0 na. So natira na lang ito. Hassle, no? Hassle ng ng electric field. So napakahirap no. Ang electric field mo, bale magiging, the electric field. Kuha tayo ng ibang color. Electric field. E will be Z. And then, magiging 2k lambda over L, 2k lambda L over Z, L squared plus Z squared, Z hat. Okay. Kuha yan. And if we're gonna get, okay, so yan, tama tayo. Amazing. Learning. Okay, so ito yung electric field mo at that point. So ayan, nasolve natin to. Okay. Hirap, di ba? Kapagod. So kapag hindi kayo makapag-use substitution, try ganun ng substitution. And you can try para you can try to learn. No? So you learn from your mistakes. Sorry class, hindi ko naalala yung tamang substitution. Thank you for chatting yung tamang substitution. Ang galing. Okay, so let's try another problem. Okay, find the electric field a distance z above the center of a circular loop of radius r that carries a uniform line charge lambda. Yay, uniform line charge na naman tayo. Okay? Okay, so let's do this. Let's draw the figure. So x, drawing ako ng x. Pangit ko naman mag-drawing. Okay, x hat, and then actually x na lang para cute. And then the z hat is z. Oops, ba't nilagay? Z will be here. So let's say that the point we're finding is around here at a distance z above the center of a circular loop. So we have a loop here. So we have a loop. Oops, sobra. Ooh, rainbow. Okay, so may loop tayo ng charge, which is like this. And then, okay, radius r. So lagay lang natin na ito ay r. Okay, para hindi tayo mahirapan. Okay. Okay, so let's write down the equations. Okay, so let's use a white colored marker. Electric field will be 1/4 pi epsilon naught integral ng lambda. Lambda is lambda, right? And then, what is your curly r? Then, our curly r hat. We have the curly r hat. Yes. Yon. Okay, then dl prime. Kuha. Okay, so what is the curly r? The curly r mo will be, again, from the charge here, from the charge here to towards your point of interest, which is yung inaalam natin na kung saan yung electric field, di ba? Okay? And this is, again, very simple kasi we know by Pythagorean theorem that this is just r squared, yung radius, r squared, plus yung height mo, di ba? Right triangle. So this is z. So this is just this. Okay. Okay. What is your r prime? Di pala r prime. R curly r hat. Nakakalito, no? So curly r hat mo will be, of course, your r curly r vector divided by the magnitude of this vector, which is just this. So alam natin na yung denominator square root lang ito. Kuha. Okay? But yung what is your r vector? Curly r vector. Again, di ba yung r vector mo, magkakaroon ka na naman ng, oops, sorry, r vector pala dapat. Ay, sorry, wala. Okay, r vector, curly r vector will be, again, z hat, tapos minus yung r, x hat. Okay, r na siya ngayon kasi constant yung radius. Hindi siya x katulad nung kanina kasi kanina yung charge mo nakalapat dun sa x coordinate mo. But this time, no, the radius is constant. So, this is just r. Di ba? Yung value ng x mo. Okay. We're gonna invoke asymmetry. Okay? Sabihin natin na mag-zero out na lang yung x component mo. Dahil kapag umikot ka, okay, so yung kapartner nito, pag umikot ka na sa ring mo, up. So ko lang yung pag umikot ka na sa ring mo, pagkaabot mo dito sa part na to, magkakaroon ka ng electric field na pa ganun. Okay? And this part cancels out with this guy. And for every point that you have here, say here, ang kapartner niya will be around something somewhere here. Magka-cancel din sila, yung x component nila or yung horizontal component nila. And here, magka-cancel yung components nila and so on and so forth. Buuin mo yung circle na yan, magka-cancel lahat ng x components nila. So ang matitira will be z hat lang. And we can imagine that further by saying that this is some kind of theta and that the cosine of this vector gives me just this length, di ba? Kapag may vector ka, tapos may quantity ka, tapos minultiplyan mo ng cosine theta, kukunin mo lang yung projection mo. Okay? So, kunin lang natin yung projection nito with respect to this z para makuha yung so this is actually cosine theta also. Okay? But cosine theta is just adjacent over hypotenuse. Anong adjacent part niya? Z. Tapos yung hypotenuse mo will be the curly r. Tama? Magnitude ng curly r. So this is just Z hat over curly r. And of course, if you're gonna do the long method, kung saan isasama nyo pa siya dito, mapapansin nyo na pag pinlog-in nyo dito, ito, lalabas din. Dapat pala, ito ay Z. Okay. Lalabas din yung sinasabi natin part na ito. Okay? Kuha ba yun? Imagine yun. Pag pinlog-in natin to dito, tapos magka-cancel lang din naman yung mga x hat, ang lalabas lang in total will be z over curly r. Kuha. Okay, let's plug in the things now. Okay, chat, wait lang. Sir, may question po ako. Bakit hindi po natin yung kino-consider yung y hat sa pagsusolve? Okay, hindi natin kino-consider yung y dahil, okay, sabihin natin yung drawing tayo ng y. Okay, y. Okay, tama. And if kapag meron kang electric field at this point running towards this point, papunta din sa point na to, magka-cancel lang din siya din sa kapartner niya dito. Which is just this. Okay? So in essence, wherever you look at the problem, dalawang coordinates lang kailangan mo, which is yung horizontal and then yung vertical. Hindi mo kailangan consider yung isa. Dahil kapag umikot-ikot ka, ganun pa rin naman yung problem mo. Okay? Does that answer the question? Okay. So we can redraw the problem. We can redraw the problem such as this, Z, and then Y hat. Y. So naka-rotate na ngayon, no? Tumitingin tayo dito. Tumitingin naman tayo dito. Okay, kuwari matayan. Titingnan natin siya ngayon dito. At this side, makikita mo na yung problem stays the same, di ba? Ganyan pa rin yung problem. And then yung mga y component mo yung horizontal component mo will just be zero out, di ba? Will just zero out. Ayan. So nakakalito yung ano. Okay. Okay. So at this point of view, ang yung problem natin will be this guy. Okay? So, ganyan yung itsura pag umikot tayo ng onte. Ito na its hat. So, sa electromagnetic theory, no, makahasa yung utak niyo mag-isip ng 3D. Dahil, ayan nga, kailangan mo ma-imagine yung mga bagay-bagay talaga. So, writing this down. Okay? And then, we have lambda, which is constant. So, let me take that out. Let me write this as lambda. And then, yung 1 over curly r squared mo will be r squared plus z squared. And then, yung close lang natin to. Tapos yung direction mo will be z hat over r, diba? dl prime. And if we simplify this further, we know that the denominator natin will be just this. Magiging r squared plus z squared. Oops, sorry. Z squared dapat. Yung 3 halves na nakakairita, di ba? Okay. Tapos numerator mo, z hat. Now, the problem is left in here. Ano yun? dl prime mo. Okay? Okay. Let's look at this at a physical point of view para hindi tayo mahirapan. Okay. So, yung dl prime mo, dl prime is the path of charges. Part of charges. Tama? And then, yung path of charges natin will be this rainbow thing. This cute. Di siya rainbow, no? Basta, ayan. Basta this colorful thing is your charges. And if we're gonna integrate all over the path of the charge, what do we get? What do we get, guys? So, okay, tanong tayo. Si Honey. Okay. Sa tingin mo, Honey, ano yung total path pag inikot mo tong buong to? How long is this path? May message. Pero si Honey dapat sasagot. Honey, nandiyan ka pa ba?
Sir,
Yes.
2 pi po ba?
Ano, sorry?
2 pi?
2 pi ano? Yes. Ano sagot mo? Sorry?
2 pi po.
Okay. So, 2 pi. Close enough, no? Ang sagot dito natin is 2 pi r. That's the circumference. Diba? Pag inikot natin tong path na to, ang total distance nito ay 2 pi r. Okay. Now, okay. Yung circumference ba natin magma-matter if I go up higher here in Z, Danny? Magma-matter ba kung yung circumference ba natin magma-matter kung depende kung nasaan ako dito sa Z? If I say na I'm here at this point, does the circumference change? Danny? Are you there, Danny?
Hello po. Yung circumference po nung path,
Hindi
naman po yata kasi nagsistay po siya na ganon. Okay.
Okay, tama. Hindi magbabago yung ano natin, no? Hindi magbabago yung yung circumference natin as we go along Z. And yung dependence, saan nakadepende yung laki ng circumference natin, Kyla? Saan nakadepende yung laki ng circumference?
Sa R po, sir.
Okay, sa R. So kung hindi magbabago yung R, magbabago ba yung circumference? Kyla?
Hindi po, sir.
Okay, hindi magbabago yung circumference, di ba? So tingnan natin yung mga in-integrate natin variables. Yung Z, sabi natin, hindi naman siya nakaka-affect sa circumference ng bagay na nasolve mo. And we have R, but R is constant, di ba? So problem natin, R is constant. That is radius R. So we're left with integrating this as simply as lambda. Everything goes out of the problem. Z hat. Oops. Z hat. And then R squared plus Z squared. 3/2. And I'm left with in this integral. And we know that this integral is just 2 pi R. Okay? So that ends our class. Lambda Z 2 pi R 4 pi epsilon naught R squared Z squared 3 times. Okay. Ayan. So that ends our class. May prob set kayo? Dapat gagawin pa natin ito. Gagawin ko next meeting. Sige, gagawin ko next meeting to. Pero you have the tools now to solve your prob set. So, ang prob set natin will be problem 2.7 and 2.8. Now, I want you to work as partners. I mean, kung may partner kayo, mag-work kayo as a partner. So, no need for this problem set to annotate your names on the problems you solve. So, I want you guys to solve this problem together. Okay? Okay. So, are there any questions, guys? Nag-extend tayo ng 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Oh my God, sorry guys. Next time, magna-notes na ako talaga para hindi na tayo matagal. Okay. Any questions, guys? Today, sir. What do you mean today? Yung problem set na to ay ipapasa before the next meeting. So, ito isa-solve ko sa next meeting. No need to solve this, but you can solve this on your own if you want to challenge yourselves. Okay? So, yung problem set natin ang deadline, ito will be before the next meeting. Okay, any other questions? Sir, anyari po sa Zuhat? Okay, the final answer. Oo nga naman. Wala si Zuhat. Zuhat. So, hindi magiging vector to no, kung walang Zuhat. Ano ba yan, sir? Okay, so thank you for that. Okay, anything else? Ang galing ng mga nakakasilip ng ganun, no? Very keen eyes. Okay, any other questions? Wala na. Stop share na ako. And then I'm extending for 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being still here and you are now
Sir?
dismissed. Yes.
Kailan po due tong problem set?
Yung problem set nyo ay due before the next meeting. So, ang next meeting natin will be Tuesday. So, before that. So, that is before 4 p.m. So, before class talaga. Okay? Okay. Anything else, guys?